Teachers are not supposed to play favorites. And if one of their students is slacking off, they're supposed to help them succeed. They are not supposed to have sex with them in school. And they're not supposed to send them racy texts at home, especially if the teacher's married, and especially if that student is in 6th grade. That's what 27-year-old Brittany Zamora is accused of doing. Just 10 months into her job as a 6th grade teacher at Arizona Los Brisas Academy. And now Brittany's in the slammer.
Ms. Zamora, did you have an inappropriate relationship with a 13-year-old boy, one of your students?
Dead silent on that one. And we're learning tonight that the 13-year-old boy may not have been the only victim in all of this. Although the things she's accused of doing with that boy are enough to put Mrs. Zamora away for years, including the messages that she reportedly sent him while his parents were watching over his shoulder. Messages like, "If I could quit my job and F you all day, I would." That's what she sent him, allegedly. But it turns out that boy's parents might not have been the first people to put 2 and 2 together. No, the other students at Los Brisas were reportedly talking about Mrs. Zamora and her inappropriate relationship with a student well before Mrs. Zamora was taken away in cuffs. We're hearing tonight that those students went to the principal about her more than a month before the police hauled her in. Something that boy's parents are certainly not very happy about. They sounded off to our affiliate KTVK. Their child's identity and both of their identities are being protected.
I want her to spend the rest of her life in prison. I want the school to be held accountable for what they've done and change rules and make it to where this can never happen to another parent's child. And the big thing for us is that we want people to understand just because it's a boy, it makes it no different. That it's the same. It's a 13-year-old child that got taken advantage by a monster. We teach your kids that there's no such thing as monsters at all. There's none. But in the real world, there are monsters, and Brittany Zamora is a monster.
Well, she's still cooling her heels in jail because she couldn't post the $250,000 bond. With me now, crime and justice producer Kyle Peltz. Also, Russ Richelsoph, who's the attorney for the minor's parents. And Mark Saltzman is a technology expert. Still with me is defense attorney Brian Claypool. First to you, Kyle Peltz. Am I to understand that a number of students at this school went to the principal with all sorts of comments about the teacher dating potentially this child, spending inappropriate amounts of time with this child, favoring this child?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Ashleigh. Mrs. Zamora, she was arrested in late March, but we're now learning the school was apparently made aware of that possible inappropriate relationship as early as the beginning of February. Now, our affiliate, KVOA, they obtained what are said to be the principal's handwritten letters from these interviews he conducted with other students at the school. And it's not clear exactly which student is being talked about in these letters because they're heavily redacted. But the documents mention a possible relationship between Mrs. Zamora and another student.
I have them. I have some of the notes, apparently, the handwritten notes from the principal. Let me read a few of them. Some of the accusers were pretty specific to the principal in what they said. Here's one of the comments from a student. "He doesn't do any work and he gets straight A's." And another comment, "Everyone talks about them having an inappropriate relationship outside of class and at recess." Recess. And then another comment, "She needs to act a bit more professional with," and the student's name is redacted. "Students think it's unfair. He gets warnings and is let off the hook. Other students get detentions right away." We don't know necessarily, Kyle, if those students are speaking of this particular child, but that's what all the directions point to, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know the exact child that's referenced in these documents, but that's not only the accusations aren't all. There were actually students that went to this principal and defended Mrs. Zamora, saying that's not the woman we know.
I have some of those as well. Let me read them. Some of the defenses that those students gave this principal. And again, these are notes the principal was handwriting that now are in court documents. So one of the kids said, "Not an appropriate relationship, but he definitely gets special treatment." Another kid, or at least another comment from a kid, said, "It's going around the school that they have a relationship. But I feel that Mrs. Zamora wouldn't do that." And then yet another comment says, "I've heard other kids in my class say that they think they're dating. I don't think that because I know Mrs. Zamora and I know she wouldn't do that." I have to say, when I was in 6th grade, I didn't even think teachers could get married or have children. Your 6th grade teacher is your hero. They are a form of life unlike any other. So, of course, why wouldn't these children not believe it for a minute if they were hearing those rumors in school? And why on earth would they hear those rumors in school? Russ Richelsoph, if you could weigh in on this for me. How is this child, how is he doing now?
He's doing okay. He's been going to counseling, and the kids have been getting schooling at home. The parents are very obviously concerned about, protecting their children's identities in this matter. You're exactly right when you say a 6th grade teacher is, supposed to be a kid's hero. This is really a difficult time in a child's life. They're on the, kind of the cusp of puberty there and making that transition, and it's a tough time in a kid's life. And for a teacher to victimize a child, at this sensitive time in their life is really damaging.
And I'll tell you what, I wouldn't even, Russell, I wouldn't even want my children, partially exposed to some of the pornographic writing. Even if it was phantom and fiction, I wouldn't want my 6th grader seeing this. But I'm going to read for you the alleged messages that this woman sent this boy, your client's child. By the way, this was a sting operation. His parents made him text her in a realistic way, just like they would normally text, in order to see her text back. That's what they allege. And the boy says this: "I want to F so bad, baby. Those times weren't enough for me." And Mrs. Zamora is alleged to respond to him, "I know, baby. I want you every day with no time limit." She's then alleged to go on and say, "If I could quit my job and F you all day, I would." The boy says, I need more blank from you." And Mrs. Zamora says, allegedly, "I'll give you whatever you want, baby." And I'm assuming, Russell, that those are going to make their way into the case against her, because that's pretty strong and damning evidence. There's other evidence as well that I understand your clients have. Early on in the case, it's my understanding, before Mrs. Zamora's husband knew the extent of the evidence against her and knew the extent of the alleged relationship between her and her 6th grader, that they made an overture to your clients saying, "Please go easy on her. You'll ruin her career." There was a phone call, and they recorded the phone call. Am I correct?
Yes, you're correct. My client's parents did make a recording of the phone call from Brittany Zamora's husband to them.
And so what was the nature of the call when you think about what he was saying then, as relates to what we know now?
The husband clearly didn't know the extent of what his wife had done. You can tell from what he says in the phone call that he's under the impression that all that she's done is send some inappropriate text messages. In the course of the phone call, though, my client's father then explains to Mr. Zamora what the extent of the relationship is, and there's this pause. There's this gasp and this pause where Mr. Zamora is just absorbing this information, and it's very clear from listening to it that his wife hadn't been honest with him about the extent of
what
her relationship
is alleged to have happened. Is it true, Russell, that Mrs. Zamora offered at some point to babysit for these parents, to babysit the alleged victim, their son?
She did. She had offered to. There was an event at the school, and the parents happened to be at the event. And she approached the parents at this school event and said, "Oh, you just have such great kids. If you ever need any help, I'd be happy to come over and babysit. I'd be happy to come over and tutor." And she was really trying to inject herself into this
their lives.
family's life.
This is before, obviously, this is before all the accusations came to light. But I would like to ask you about these other kids, because we're also hearing from the prosecutor. He says plural. He says kids plural, victims plural. Do you know anything about others and what they may have seen or what might have happened to them?
There is another male victim in the case. He's another student who was in Mrs. Zamora's class, and he was present during a sexual act that took place in the classroom after school hours.
Wow. All right, I'm going to ask Mark Saltzman to weigh in, but not before I ask the control room. If you could cue up the soundbite that has Mrs. Zamora pleading her case to the judge. And I just want to see that last portion, if they can. Give me that soundbite that shows her pleading her case to the judge, asking to go home to her husband. I want to roll that for about 10 or 15 seconds. But before I do that, Mark Saltzman, these parents were very clever. They used something called Sentry parental control, Sentry parental control on their kid's phone so that they could catch dirty language, etc. Is that the only app that you know of, or are there other apps and many apps that parents can get a leg up on trying to police that their kids are safe?
So Sentry is one of the more popular ones for Android devices. It does not work on iPhone, which is the other big platform, of course, but there are others. There are other ones like it. There's a couple of dozen. They all do pretty much the same thing. It's a subscription service that that lets you monitor what your kids are doing on their mobile device remotely. You don't need to be with them. And that boils down to a few things: images, text, phone calls, web activity, app activity, and then finally location. So they all kind of do the same thing. So whether this was part of the sting operation or this was installed before the authorities were brought on board to get proof, this is what the parents use. It is called Sentry.
Well, I highly recommend it for any parents out there, and obviously this is a case where it's proof positive that you can't be too careful. Thank you to Kyle Peltz, Russell Richelsoph. I appreciate your time as well and your information. And Mark Saltzman, as always, it's good to have you. Brian Claypool, you can't go anywhere. I still have work for you to do, because caught on camera, Texas cops rushed to rescue a woman from a single